You know the drill. You order your coffee, and just as you're about to pay, the glowing tablet swings your way. The suggested tip, a whopping 25%. You'll probably tap 20% because let's be honest, who wants to look cheap in front of the barista? But here's the kicker. The twist most people never see coming: that generous tip you just gave, it might never actually reach the person who made your latte. Instead, it gets funneled into a $47 billion system designed to keep wages low, boost tech company profits, and somehow still leave 1 in 6 food service workers on food stamps. Today, we're pulling back the curtain, tracking where your tip really goes, and why the math never seems to add up for the people you intended to thank. Tipping didn't even start in America. It was imported from Europe in the 1850s. At first, employers hated it, saw it as a challenge to their authority. But then came the lightbulb moment. They realized tipping was the perfect way to dodge payroll costs. Why pay workers a real wage when you could shift that burden to the customer? By 1938, the Fair Labor Standards Act set a federal minimum wage. Sounds fair, right? Except restaurant lobbyists carved out a loophole, the infamous tip credit. This allowed owners to pay as little as $2.13 an hour, as long as tips pushed workers up to the $7.25 minimum. Decades later, that loophole is still alive. 16 states cling to it, while the restaurant industry spends millions every election cycle to keep it that way. The result? Servers depending on the moods of strangers for their survival. Those sleek tablets from Square, Toast, and Clover, they're not just checkout tools, they're behavioral machines. Every spin of that screen, every default tip option, is engineered to guilt you into paying more. Studies show when the suggested tip jumps from 15% to 18%, industry-wide revenue rises about 6%. And here's the kicker. These platforms skim off the top. Processing fees apply to the entire bill, including your tip. Owners often pass that cost down, meaning workers lose pennies on every dollar. The worker sees less, the owner gets data, and the tech companies double dip. Everybody wins, except the person holding the pitcher of steamed milk. By law, managers can't keep tips, but claims of wage theft have tripled since 2010. Here's how it works. Servers are required to hand over a cut of their nightly sales to a tip pool. That money then goes to bussers, dishwashers, and sometimes even salaried managers. That last part, totally illegal. Remember Mario Batali's restaurant group? They paid a $5.25 million settlement for exactly this. And it's not just celebrity chefs. Steakhouses have been caught rerouting tips to cover things like broken glassware and credit card fees. Workers rarely fight back because lawsuits cost more than a month's rent, and retaliation comes quick. Shifts cut, hours gone. The Department of Labor recovered $47 million in stolen tips last year, but they estimate that's less than 20% of the real total. Now let's talk about the App Store. Uber Eats, Grub. Their models start drivers at about $2 base pay. Sounds bad enough, right? But here's the trick. If you tip generously in app, the company can quietly lower their base pay. So, your $5 tip doesn't reward the driver, it just lets the company contribute less. In 2019, public outrage forced some transparency, but drivers still report hourly earnings below minimum wage after gas and expenses. The companies call it flexibility. In reality, it's a clever accounting trick that shifts labor costs onto you, the customer. Here's the psychology. 63% of Americans say they're tired of tipping, but 78% still tip at least 18%. Why? Because gratuity has become tied to morality. Menus proudly print, "Our staff works for tips." Cafes hang signs, "Tips appreciated." That smiling barista. Whether intentional or not, it makes you feel guilty for saying no. It's a system built on social pressure. Prices stay artificially low, and you unknowingly pay the hidden guilt tax. Owners get to boast about affordable menus while offloading payroll onto you. So, let's follow the money. In 2024, Americans tipped about $47 billion. If tips work the way you think they do, food service workers would be some of the best paid hourly employees in the country. But instead, their median wage including tips is only about $13 an hour. Here's where the money really goes. Employers save $9 billion a year by exploiting the tip credit loophole. Tech platforms rake in $1.4 billion from fees on tips. Consumers get artificially cheap meals. The worker, they're just the conduit, the middleman for money that flows everywhere but their own pocket. This isn't just economics, it's health. Nearly half of all servers report working while sick. Why? Because missing a shift means missing rent. One worker with norovirus bussing tables can spread illness to dozens of people. Entire restaurants have been shut down for this. And who ends up paying? Taxpayers. Food service workers use Medicaid and SNAP at double the national rate. Your tip doesn't just replace wages, it replaces sick leave, health insurance, and retirement. The public foots the bill, while the industry profits. But change is possible. 7 states, California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Minnesota, Montana, and Alaska have abolished sub-minimum tipped wages. And guess what? The restaurant industry didn't collapse. In fact, it grew. New York recently raised delivery workers' pay to nearly $20 an hour. Chicago now fines owners up to $10,000 for tip skimming. And the simplest fix, raise the federal tipped wage to the full minimum. Customers will still tip. Data shows tipping culture doesn't disappear, but workers finally get a stable, livable base wage. If this is making your head spin, hit that subscribe button. Next week, we're re-exposing another hidden scam. Why grocery self-checkouts are now asking for tips and where those dollars really go. And tell me in the comments, what's the most absurd place you've even been asked to tip? Let's see who wins tipping bingo. So, what can you do? Keep tipping, but when you can't tip in cash, it bypasses fees and skimming. Ask owners if they pay full wages. If they do, your tip is truly a bonus. Support restaurants with hospitality included pricing. The sticker shock fades fast. And most importantly, call your representatives. The Raise the Wage Act has stalled 3 times because of lobbyist pressure. Workers don't have paid lobbyists, they have you. That glowing screen asking for 25% isn't generosity. It's the final link in a system designed since Reconstruction to keep wages low and profits high. Your tip was never about rewarding service. It was engineered to cover payroll, to pad corporate profits, and to shift responsibility away from employers. Every year, $47 billion flows through this system and the workers are the last to benefit. So, the next time you hover over that glowing tablet, remember this: the biggest tip isn't the one you leave. It's the one you've already been forced to give, to an industry that's mastered the art of privatizing profit and socializing payroll, until the law changes. Tip in cash, support fair wage restaurants, and never feel guilty about hitting zero when the service was truly selfless. This has been another deep dive with Truvo, where we expose the scams, the frauds, and the hidden truths shaping our world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the next investigation might just change the way you see everything.